My friends, what you're about to see is not just another election expose from the afternoon papers. It is the mathematical and undeniable proof that the balance of global power has been irreversibly and silently broken inside your own home, on your cell phone, and at the core of the democratic system. President Donald Trump has just declassified top-secret documents, and the conclusions revealed in prime time are an absolute cybersecurity nightmare. Approximately 220 million identities and records of American citizens were captured, packaged, and processed by China. Yes, my friends, China stole data from more than 220 million American voters. The Asian power got into the source code of the American elections and no one fired a single shot. And while the foundations of Washington are shaking with this massive digital invasion, Brasilia has just shot itself in the foot. The Brazilian government signed a pact that puts our entire technological future and our artificial intelligence in the exact same hands that today monitor, censor, and manipulate the free world. But here is the pattern interruption that the mainstream media and the staunch defenders of the establishment don't want you to ask out loud. And if this massive invasion was detected, why did American intelligence and the FBI know about it for years and keep absolutely silent? The answer destroys narratives and exposes the level of the war we're involved in. To understand how the Chinese paper dragon wields its state military doctrine against the West, we need to apply some blunt, hard-hitting translation to the documents that Trump made public. The revealed dossier doesn't just expose theories. It includes official reports from CISA, the United States Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and what CISA points out about electronic voting systems is frightening. The media tries to cover it up, but the documents detail critical vulnerabilities in electronic magic boxes. So, as not to say the correct word, so we don't get punished by the algorithm, which are the devices used in the electoral counting system, specifically mentioning investigations into Smartmatic's equipment and the Venezuela case in 2012. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and like the video. It takes a lot of work to make, my friends. Let's go. Pay attention to the extent of what was documented. Intelligence discovered that it was possible to manipulate the systems through digital hash fraud. Now look at the engineering behind this fraud. A hash is like a digital wax seal, a cryptographic signature that ensures the data from that voting machine hasn't been altered on its way to the central server. Does that remind you of anything? The American report showed that if the machine's software had vulnerabilities in its code, malicious technicians could literally copy and replicate it. The digital hash of a machine that favored the dictatorial regime could be used to overwrite the data of a machine where the opposition had won. They would swap the results. This means that the perfect crime happens in mathematics. The central system receives the fraudulent vote, checks the cryptographic seal, and accepts it as genuine because the digital seal was successfully cloned. This is not an internet conspiracy theory. This is a cyber attack vector described by the US government's own cybersecurity agency. They detailed how the system's architecture can be used to alter the mathematical truth even before it reaches the tally display. And when you have a system that doesn't require unquestionable physical proof, a receipt, you put the fate of the country in the hands of those who write the source code. And the vulnerability didn't stop in the digital world. The report exposes the structural fraud in the physical world, the mail-in vote. In 2020, using the pandemic as an excuse, the American system allowed millions of ballots to be sent without strict identity verification. The consequence has now been documented. Investigations revealed that in Georgia, more than 42,000 deceased people voted. In addition to thousands of non-citizens who inserted ballots into the system, fraud doesn't need hackers. When the electoral law itself removes the safeguards and allows envelopes to be collected in bulk without voter validation. Do you think the Chinese problem was just a lone hacker in a dark room stealing the count from a ballot box in rural Michigan? Wrong. This is much bigger and infinitely more lethal than changing votes. And there's a detail. You can draw a parallel in your mind by imagining a country that's over there, in East America. Yes, in East America, called Brussels. Suppose that what is happening in the United States is mirrored exactly in Brussels. They stole the names, physical addresses, databases, and the exact party affiliation of 220 million Americans. What does that mean in tactical and practical terms? It means that today, the supercomputers in Beijing know exactly who the citizen is, where they live, their consumption habits, and how they think and react to political crises. They didn't steal the direct result from a machine. They took over the mind of the American voter. And with this massive database, they created the perfect psychological map of Western democracy in order to implode it from within, manipulating algorithms and inflaming internal divisions. War is no longer about destroying the magic boxes with explosives. War is about psychologically dominating the person who will type the numbers into them. The deep state, the intelligence agencies infested with bureaucrats, hid this report from the American public so as not to delegitimize Joe Biden's election. They prefer to hide the fact that China has a complete profile of the American population rather than admit that the 2020 system was full of holes. China knows perfectly well that it wouldn't survive a naval war in open waters against the American fleet. The United States has 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. China can barely operate 3. They wouldn't win with sheer firepower. Yeah, so they decided to destroy the West from within in the invisible zone of hybrid warfare. And it's exactly to punch through and cripple this media and bureaucratic elite that's trying to cover up the collapse of our system that we need to apply colossal pressure in this arena. Now pay close attention for a minute. The mainstream media feels an almost pathological hatred toward our intelligence analyses because we tear the veil off their narratives. I'm running for the Best Award in the Political Influencer category, and I want to show the unquestionable strength that our elite analyst community has. I'm asking for your vote now. It's a direct attack against the state. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. Go there, it takes 30 seconds, and show our strength. Because if you think the level of this national security scandal in the United States is serious, wait until you see the hypocrisy and the self-inflicted wound that was just signed in Brazil. So go there and cast your vote. We went from the 44th position and today we're in 3rd place to qualify for the national top 20. Definitive in the next phase. So keep voting every day. Look at the power you have. Thank you very much. While Trump in the Oval Office is fighting to pass the Save American Act, a strict law to require IDs at the polls, ban mail-in voting, and expel foreign influence from the electoral process, the current Brazilian government decided on its own because I wasn't consulted and I believe you weren't either. To tear off our doors and hand over the key, the master key to our future, to Beijing, to China. Going against the free world, Brazil signed an agreement to join the so-called WICO, the International Organization for Cooperation in Artificial Intelligence. This is the consortium led and designed exclusively by the Chinese government, made up of authoritarian nations that use cyber technology, not to liberate the citizen, but to monitor, punish, and domesticate them. And is this very serious? Iran, China, Russia, North Korea, the axis of dictatorships gathered to control the artificial intelligence that you use right there in your home. And it leads us to the greatest economic hypocrisy of our era. Look at the irrationality of Brazil's relationship with China. The Chinese impose abusive protectionist taxes, charging up to 55% in tariffs on Brazilian meat and agribusiness. They charge us extortionate tolls to sell food, drain our ocean resources with illegal fishing fleets, and treat local workers in infrastructure operations virtually under the lash. But we, in a movement of total diplomatic subservience, not only accept this physical humiliation, but have decided to hand over, for free and with open doors, control of our artificial intelligence sovereignty to the Communist Party. Can you imagine the Communist Party building data centers here in Brazil to process artificial intelligence data? Something they can't do elsewhere because of a lack of energy? Yeah, we handed over our minds without charging a cent, and for you to understand the danger, we need to go back in history. England dominated the following centuries because it embraced the Industrial Revolution without government restrictions. The United States led the internet era because they ensured that technology operated in an open market. Artificial intelligence is the new global industry. It will determine who dominates the planet for the next 200 years, but Brazil has decided to follow a path of total backwardness. We are starting down the path of heavy regulation. We are entering the technological race with the parking brake fully on by left-wing bureaucrats. The government wants to put artificial intelligence under state control even before the first national model is trained. And why does the political elite want this, you ask me? Because at the very moment Brazil allies itself with the Chinese consortium, the dark plan for absolute control is exposed. China doesn't see AI as a business tool or as something to improve people's lives. China sees AI as the central engine of its massive surveillance firewall. Imagine the devastating consequences of an AI operating under the Chinese state model, coupled with the Brazilian justice system. Today, we are already watching in disbelief. The judiciary, figures like Alexandre de Moraes, using the pen and the power of the state to take down profiles, demonetize platforms, demand censorship of journalists, and arrest opponents for crimes of opinion. Now, close your eyes and imagine that same urge for control fueled by an authoritarian artificial intelligence operating at the speed of light. The state would no longer need lengthy investigations. The Chinese AI machine would process your messages, your photos, your internet searches, and your payments. Digital censorship would be carried out in an automated, predatory, and inescapable way. You would be banned from the banking system and blocked from social networks even before you finish typing a criticism of the government. Brazil's alignment with the dictatorships of the ICO consortium has the sole objective of nationalizing technology, taking away individual freedom, and consolidating the tyranny of those in power. Trump's proposed Save American Act is the American attempt to close the door, install heavy locks on the ballot boxes and the system, and prevent the country from being hit by another cyber attack. But in Brazil, the door to our security is not just open, it has been ripped off its hinges and sold to the Chinese consortium. We are proud of the fact that Brazil has one of the most integrated electoral systems on the planet with a huge biometric database. What happens when absolutely every fingerprint, every facial recognition photo, and this entire national repository is managed on servers or in partnerships led by governments that do not value democracy? This is digital invasion, period. Stealing an election costs 4 years of political disaster. But handing over the processing of our biometrics and our intelligence to the Chinese paper dragon could irreversibly cost us our own freedom. To immediately gauge our audience's level of awareness and understanding of this invisible war, leave your proof in the comments. Go to the comments now and type our 2 non-negotiable keywords which serve as the verdict of our elite analysis. Paper dragon and digital invasion. I repeat, paper dragon and digital invasion. Type that. Mark your territory against the censorship machine. The final, hard, and undeniable truth of this information war is sovereignty. And the same law of predation that destroys weak nations operates every day in the business world and in your professional life. Today, attention is the world's most valuable currency. And for an entrepreneur, the greatest pain is being the best at what you do, having the best product but not being able to break the barrier of invisibility online. You have a great business, but you feel like the algorithm only rewards dances and empty memes. I used to think like that in the past. Not anymore. Today, I've broken that barrier. 15 years ago on television, I realized that building unquestionable authority requires a war strategy. And today, every business is a media business. Look at CIMED, a pharmaceutical company. Look at Havan, a department store chain. They tripled their sales the moment they also became a content producer. Reality is relentless, my friends. Your identity cannot be outsourced. The owner needs to put themselves out there. Is the time over when you could record with your phone without any authority and still sell? Does the digital space demand absolute professionalism? And what if you want to break through the bubble, be recognized in your niche, and build a structure making artificial intelligence work for you? With the exact tactic that currently gets me 50 million views per month on social media and monetized in dollars. I created an immersive workshop to guide you exactly. On August 16th in person, I'll be locked here in my studio with you face to face to personally guide the lethal building of your authority. But I'm strict with the numbers. There are only 10 seats. When the 10th seat is taken, the steel door closes and that's it. The QR code is on the screen now. The secure link is in the pinned comment and in the description. Secure your spot immediately and learn how to break through the bubble, to break down the barrier that makes you invisible here in this huge digital world. And for those of you who like series and movies, I created a channel with tips on series and movies. Our team curated it so you don't waste any more time, right? You spend hours there on Netflix, on Amazon, on your streaming subscription, and in the end, it was a big waste and a huge waste of time, because the time you spend with me, you can't get it back. That's why I do everything I can to give you the best content. And with movies and series, it's the same thing. So link in the description, in the pinned comment, and in the card. No woke culture or whining, it's spot on. Just sit down and simply have fun. Now subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, leave a like on the video because it takes work to make it. Blend your mind. I'm Shimon Oliveira and I'll see you in the next video. See you then. And